Okay, so we spent 2 days on the ellipse. The next shape we're going to talk about is the hyperbola. And if you guys look at the formula, there's some very subtle differences between the ellipse and the hyperbola. And I'm just going to flat out tell you what the difference is. So when you compare this to the ellipse, the only difference is the sign in between the fractions. An ellipse has a plus sign. That's the only difference. Now, because that's a minus sign, it could make our hyperbola look one of two ways. Let me quickly explain what a hyperbola is. A hyperbola is basically like a double parabola, but they face away from each other. So in this example right here, you've got one parabola up, one parabola down, and there's still a middle point right here. Now, there is a distance between the vertices. This would be considered the vertex right here. And this would also be considered a vertex because it's like the beginning of each shape. Now, I don't know if you guys can also see this though. Imagine cutting both of these shapes. I'll do it with my fingers. And this isn't going to help for my recording, but whatever. So my parabolas are faced like this, right?
Yeah.
If I cut these out and then slide them like this, they make the ellipse.
That's so.
See that? So when you have a plus, the ellipse is connected. But when you put a minus in between, it cuts the ellipse kind of in half. Yeah. Oh, Greg, that's gang signs. Calm down. So it cuts the ellipse in half, and then it shifts them like this. Now, the distance that they get shifted away from each other, that axis, they call that the transverse axis. So this would have a vertical transverse axis. Transverse axis. So that's the first thing I want to teach you. We're not going to do any graphing today, but you should know just by looking at the equation which direction the shapes are going. What the heck is that? Big words. Hey, those big words?
Transverse.
Transverse. It's not that big. 2 syllables. Transverse. So what I want to teach you first, before we get into the equation part, is how to tell which way the transverse axis goes. So this is an example of a horizontal, and the reason why it's horizontal is because x is first. You guys know which way the x-axis goes, right? The x-axis is horizontal. So whichever letter comes first in the equation determines which way the shapes are going to open. So if I have a horizontal transverse axis, that basically means that my shapes go like this. They open up horizontally, side to side. If I have a vertical transverse axis, the vertical axis happens anytime y is first.
And then.
So that means that your shape on this one would open up like this. Now the distance between your two shapes depends on the letter underneath the transverse axis. The bigger the A is, and did you guys notice A doesn't flip-flop like the last one? And in this one, A and B don't matter. The size doesn't matter of those. In the ellipse, A was always the bigger one, but in this one, it doesn't matter which one is bigger, because everything is determined by that front letter. So here's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is figure out which way the transverse axis is. I'm going to write this down. So the transverse axis remember that your transverse axis is based on the first letter at the top of the fraction. The transverse axis is x, so we say that that is a horizontal axis. Now that's going to become important when we have to find the vertex. And if you're still confused about what it means to be horizontal, that means that your graphs are going to go like this. So here's what today's assignment is going to ask you to do. It's going to ask you to find the center. The center of every shape is found the same way they've always been found. They come from inside the parentheses. And you guys all know when there's no parentheses, it's just going to be at 0, 0. Now, when I find my vertices are going to be based off of which axis is the transverse axis. So I'm going to have 2 vertices. The way you find the distance from the center to the vertex is you just square root the first one. So that means that A is equal to 2, and because this is underneath X, that means left and right.
And then, oh, I didn't get it.
So that means that the vertex, if the center is at 0 and I go left 2, that's going to put it at negative 2, 0. And if the center is at 0, 0 and I go right 2, that's going to put it at 2, 0.
And then that's all far away.
Yeah, that's how far away the shapes are. Now, in terms of how wide or how skinny the arms are going to be, we'll worry about that once we get to the actual graphing. What's today? Thursday? So we'll do that on Monday.
Oh, Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday? Oh, crap.
I don't say it was Thursday.
I thought it was Thursday. Now, I want to show you guys something real quick. Oh, this isn't going to stay together, and that's even worse. So let me freeze the screen real quick, because I want to show you guys something. I don't know if organizing it this way would work better. So I've seen people write the answer like this instead. Dang it. So, oh, come on. This thing's tripping, yo, tripping. I gotta do it from the mouse. I think, I hope. I don't know why it's tripping. I can't move it, whatever. I'm just gonna erase it and show you again. So it's all in how you organize the work. And I think for some people, this is gonna make more sense. The center is at 0, 0. And we know that the shape, if this is the center, we know the shape has to go this way and this way. So another way you can write your answer is like this. If that's the middle and I go left 2, that's 2, 0. And if I go right 2, that's positive 2, 0. So that literally is set up just like this picture. The dots for here and here are the two blues to the left and to the right.
Oh, that part makes sense.
Yeah, so I'll start doing the rest of the examples like that. So here's example 2. First thing we have to decide, and you will have to do this on the assignment, you have to tell me which direction the transverse axis is going. So which way is this one going? There's no diagonal axis. There's an x-axis and a y-axis. So which way is this one going? Vertical. And if you don't know, now you know. No, if you don't know, it's because of the y. Because y is first, that's the reason why it has a vertical transverse axis. So now check this out. A vertical transverse axis means that the shapes are going to look like this. So the center has to be here. So to get to the vertex, I have to go up and down. So I'm going to set up my answer so that the center is in the middle of the two other points. This one also is set up as 0, 0. And I want to move up and down. So I'm going to set up my answer so it looks like this now. So I'm going to put the points literally up and down from 0, 0. So if I go 0, oh, how much am I going to have to go? I almost forgot to ask you.
6.
Yeah, because it's this number right here. So A is equal to 6. And because it's vertical, that means up and down. So from 0, 0, I have to go up 6. So which number changes?
The 1.
The y-axis. So this would be at 0, positive 6. And then the other one will be at 0, negative 6. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I like that organization of the answers. Because to me, it makes more sense, and it's going to connect to the picture a lot better when we do it, whatever day it is. Friday. Today's Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday's work. Yeah, it'll be on Friday when we start looking at the graphs. Okay, next example. Are you guys okay with me abbreviating because I don't like writing the word transverse axis so many times? Can we just start calling it TA? So which direction is the axis this time? Okay, so horizontal. Horizontal means our picture is going to look like this. So when I find my vertices, I know that I have to move left from the center and right from the center. So I'm going to set up my answer just like that. I'm going to put the center in the middle, and then I'm going to put one vertex to the right and one vertex to the left.
So it's not diagonal.
There are no diagonal axes.
Oh,
It's either vertical or horizontal. So how much do we have to move?
oh,
So we square root it's always the first one. You just square root the first one, and that's A equals 12. And because it's horizontal, that means 12 left and 12 right. So let's first put the center, because it's all based off the center. What's my center? -3 and +2. I like it. So if I'm at -3 and I go left 12, where would that put me? -15. What would I put for the y? Yeah, so if we're only moving horizontal, we don't have to change y at all. What if I'm at -3 and I have to go right 12? +9. And then the second number stays the same. Are you guys with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, then do the next one.
CT8, you can put on, okay. Okay, so that's like that, I'm gonna do that.
Did you guys all get that it's vertical?
Yeah.
Perfect. So vertical means the shape's going to look like that. Now, I need everyone to stop and get your eraser ready, because about 80% of you probably messed up the center. The center for this shape is not at 1, -3. It's at -3, 1.
They play those.
Yes, and that's what you need to learn now and not on the test. You have to pay attention to the order of the letters because y is first and x is second. So those, you can't put 1, -3 because 1 doesn't go with x. 3 goes with x. So that means that the x value has to be -3 and the y value has to be +1. This is the one where you have to pay attention because this is the only one where the shape, or not the shape, the letters are backwards sometimes. So now, if I go to the first one and square root it, what's the square root of 1/4? It's a half. And because it's under y, that means I have to go up and down a half. So when I set up my vertex, I have to make sure that I only change which number? The y, yeah, because it's under the y. All the y's are changing. So if I'm at 1 and I go up a half, now I'm at 1.5, so 1.5. If I'm at 1 and I go down a half, now I'm just at 0.5. And then this would be just stay -3. So make a note to yourself to pay attention to the order of these letters here, because that's going to impact your center if you're not careful. Don't write your center backwards. Sometimes these letters are backwards. And you guys all know the last question that we usually do in these notes is the one that doesn't have the parentheses, right?
Yeah.
So the setup for this question is the same as every other problem. But I'm going to be doing the problem all in black, and then I'm going to show you the 2 spots where kids mess up, and I'll put those in red. So here it is. Step 1, organizing. Now, when you guys organize it, always put the positive squared first. So that means that x squared has to go first. So I want all of my x's together. I don't know where my symbols went. Do you guys have symbols on your paper?
Yeah, oh, that's a push.
Plus, what's the 64?
Plus.
Another plus, okay. So I'm gonna put my x's together, so plus 18x. And then I'm gonna put all my y squareds over here, but that y squared is a negative y squared, so it's negative 16y squared. And then I have the plus 64y. And then I bump over the negative 199. Now, you guys, what I need you to pay attention to is we have to take out the front number. These cannot have a number in front of the squared. So no matter what that number is, always divide that half of the problem by it. So I'm going to put 9 here. I'm going to put x squared plus 2x. And here's the other mistake some of you make. Some of you want to close your parentheses right away right here. No, there needs to be a spot for a third number. Now I'm going to do the second half the same exact way. I'm going to take the negative 16 and divide both of them by negative 16. So that puts a negative 16 in the front of a parentheses. And these parentheses are going to say not 16. It's going to say y squared. I don't like that y. Hold on. Let me erase that. So this parentheses is going to say y squared. Here's my first red mark. This one right here is going to say negative 4y. A lot of people mess this up because they just divide by 16 and put the negative in front. See, but to get it to turn back to a negative 64, it has to be a negative times a negative to make the plus 64. So that's the first spot. Okay? So now we do the complete the square stuff. When you get that third empty spot right here, that's how you know you're ready to complete the square. So this one's going to have 9 in front. What number goes into the short parentheses? So plus 1. What number goes into these parentheses? Another plus 1. What number do I put over here? Negative 9. Good. We learned this in the last shape that when there's a number in front, you have to times it back before you subtract it on the other side. Okay, so now we do the second part. Second part has a negative 16 in front. So this is going to be y minus what, 2? So that makes a plus 4 right here. Now here comes the second red mark. This is the mistake kids always make. When you do it over here, this is the only shape where you have to do a plus.
What?
This is the only shape where you have to do a plus.
Yeah, because you're multiplying it by
Yeah.
and then subtracting.
Perfect. This number right here really isn't a 4. It's a 4 times a negative 16, which is a negative 64. So to undo the new negative 64 that's in your problem, I have to add 64 to get it to cancel. The hyperbola is the only shape where that happens. So those are the 2 common mistakes that people make. So what do you get when you put all this stuff together?
They negative 130. What did you say? 134.
Negative 144?
I did that no brain.
So once you do all that mess, now you can put that to equal 0. And now this is the same exact work as an ellipse. In the ellipse, it's not supposed to equal 0. So we have to plus the 144 to the other side. So this is 9 parentheses x plus 1 squared minus 16 parentheses y minus 2 squared equals 144. And then your final step is to make it equal to 1. So I have to divide this by 144. I have to divide this by 144. And I have to divide this by 144. Now those should reduce. So I'm going to have x plus 1 squared over, I feel like that's 16.
Yes, it is.
And then minus y minus 2 squared over 9
Yeah.
equals 1.
What would it be?
Not -9.
Oh, no, subtraction. Or like.
This subtract is the same as this subtract. So now that I have that, now I can answer the questions. Which direction is the transverse axis? So this is going to be horizontal. Horizontal means the shape's going to look like this. So if I have a center, is this that tricky center again? Not this time. This one is -1, 2. And then I square root the first one, and because it's underneath the x, I have to go in the x direction. So since I'm going horizontal, I'm going to put the vertex on the left and the vertex on the right. So if I go left 4, that puts me at -5, 2. And then if I go right 4, 3, 2. There's your answers. So that's what you have to do on today's assignment. And that is all.
You hear that? Next period.
That's not for next period.